An entitled jerk decided that he didn't want to contribute to our group assignment, but also somehow still expected to have his name on the final product. So me and the rest of the group decided to get some petty revenge by not only taking this guy's name off of our group assignment, but also forcing him to come to terms with the way he's been acting. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, this happened back in my last semester. In my major, there is this guy, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Peter. Peter is well known to be a good-for-nothing person when it comes to doing tasks from the professor, and Peter is a loner. Not the, oh, I'm so smart and I like to be alone type of person, more like I'm a loner and I'm not a very smart one at that. And this professor we had to deal with is the type of professor that no matter how hard you worked or how good and perfect it might be, you will rarely get an A. Now this professor gave us a group project of writing paper and presenting it for a final assignment, and the score of the assignment is used for 40% of the final grade of the class. So these assignments are very much the deciding point of whether you pass the class or not, as getting a 60 and below means you failed. The professor gave us a free choice to choose our group members. I chose 2 people that I know would do well, and one other person who's good friends with one of the other 2 people. When the assignments are announced, we got 3 months to do it. As I mentioned earlier, the professor rarely gives out an A. He mostly gave you a B, and if you're lucky, you'll get a B+. So me and the other 3 members work on the paper and presentation for 3 months. When the deadline is close, maybe about 4 days into the deadline, we pretty much have finished all of it and have submitted our assignments. We felt free and unburdened from the assignments, and we thought there will be no problem. But my God, how wrong we were. The day of the deadline, Peter decided to contact one of the members of our group, and he was asking when we would do the assignments. Now, the person that is contacted by Peter forwarded the messages to the group chat. All of us are completely dumbfounded as we didn't even know he joined our group. So I contacted the teaching assistant about it, and as it turns out, the last group or so doesn't have enough members. So they decided to dissolve the group and scatter the members of said group to other groups. And when I asked when this happened, the teaching assistant told me that it had been dissolved 2 months prior. They also then asked me why I'm asking such a thing. So I explained what had happened to her. Well, they didn't like that one bit, and she seriously thought we just weren't reaching out to team members and that we were bullying him because he's a loner. Now, I was pretty upset with the teaching assistant, but mostly towards Peter. It turns out Peter also has contacted the teaching assistant about apparently being ignored by the member that he contacted. So I asked the member that is contacted by Peter to screenshot all the messages that Peter sent, as well as the day of the messages, and then I forwarded all of that to the teaching assistant. The assistant then said that she'll talk to Peter about it, and then after a few hours, the assistant asked me to let Peter join the group chat. So we reluctantly did. When Peter joins the group, he asked which part of the presentation is his to present, and it was right at that moment a fight between all the group members started. And this all comes down to the fact that Peter wants to present this topic, but the person who made said topic rejects that and said it's theirs to present. Peter then claims another topic, and other members already claim said topic. Well, after this back and forth, Peter protested to the assistant for not being given a topic to present. Well, because the paper was already being submitted, the assistant's suggestion was for Peter to research a topic that is not on the presentation and to add that to the presentation slides. So at least Peter will get the presentation score. Well, Peter didn't like that one bit. Not only would he have to research a topic, but also he will miss the score of the paper, which is the big part of the score. Peter and the assistant argued back and forth until Peter decided to threaten the assistant by saying he will report them to administration about the group for bullying, as well as the assistant and professor for letting the group bully him. Peter also said, "Well, where's your credibility as a teaching assistant?" Well, the assistant didn't like that one bit, and apparently they had had enough of Peter. The assistant then took a screenshot of the entire fight and sent it all to me. Well, Peter did report us, to which the administration contacted the assistant for an explanation, after which the administration also asked the group members about why we didn't include him and all this other information. Around the same time administration asked us about this, I suddenly remembered that Peter and I share 4 classes that we are enrolled in, and 2 of the 4 also have group assignments in which me and Peter are in one group. So I screenshotted all the messages from those 2 groups' group chat, and I showed the administration that in these 2 group chats, never did Peter mention once about the current assignments, namely the paper and presentation. So his claim of bullying him is invalid because he never mentioned it until the day of the deadline, and he never contacted other members of the group about it. So the administration decided it was up to the group whether or not to include his name on the assignment. And you know what? We absolutely didn't. After this whole fiasco ends and the semester ends, when I enrolled to this semester, I noticed that Peter isn't in any of my classes, nor is he in classes that I'm not a part of. Well, I did some asking to the administration, and it turns out Peter was failing failing most of his classes last semester, and he would have to wait for 1 semester so that he can fix his score by re-enrolling to the classes he failed. So as a result, I won't be seeing Peter this semester, and honestly, with all things considered, I think I prefer it that way. Oh man, I cannot stand group assignments, especially in school. Because here's the thing, you either have team members who really care and they're there to get the job done, or you have a bunch of deadbeats like Peter in this story who will absolutely not get anything done. They'll show up at the last second, they will derail your entire process, and then they try to complain as if they're not the reason why this all fell apart. Like seriously, this is so annoying it's not even funny. So good for you for not only keeping a good record of what actually happened, but also not letting this guy ruin your project, because as far as I'm concerned, that is exactly what he would have done. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my sister to pay me back the money that she owes me after she literally spent all of it and said she's not paying me back anytime soon? Because now my mother's involved and I'm honestly feeling very cornered, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister trades shares and doesn't really have a job. This month I loaned her about $1,000 because she started crying in front of me that she wanted to apply for some shares that she's entitled to but doesn't have the money. Well, when she started crying, my dumb emotional self lent her the money, and I didn't think a second about it because she had returned the money I had lent her earlier. Well, the shares got listed and she got them. However, she is not able to sell them now because apparently there's a problem, as it seems like they're all about to go down to zero. Well, at this point I panicked and I asked her when she was going to return the money, and she said she would when she's able to sell the shares. But it's not like she doesn't have the money. She has it tied up in all these other shares. She said she will not sell any shares to pay me back and that I will have to wait till she's able to sell the shares. We then got into a huge fight and she said she will not return the money. She then got my mother involved, and my mother kept on telling me that because I'm older and the older sister, I do so much for my younger sisters, and then asking me why I'm being so money-minded. But it's like I just lost my job and I have a handful of savings, and I've already lent money to my dad because he needed it, and now her. None of them seems to feel the need to return it, despite me asking for it multiple times. My sister kept telling me that I do not know the art of getting money out of people, and that if I want my money back, I would have to be sweet to her. I've already seen my extended family members taking advantage of dad and mooching off of him for several years. So I got furious because I could see my sister becoming just the same. So seriously, am I the wrong for getting scared and asking for the money? For real, my mom and sister, instead of understanding where I'm coming from, they are frustrated that I'm literally picking fights for such a small amount. They keep on saying that I'm frustrated because I just lost my job. When we got into the fight, my mother started crying that she cannot believe that her daughter can be so money-minded, and then the topic's just over. And now, as a result, both of them are not talking to me. I honestly don't know how to handle this because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk for being like, hey, you need to pay me back, because this is not some small amount. This is $1,000 you just coughed up and gave to your sister. And first of all, I hope you know that you can never trust her with money probably ever again. Like, she's gonna need to do a lot of proving that she can actually, like, I don't know, pay you back on time, especially after this moment right here. Like, this behavior is so weird, there's no reason for this. And I also hate the fact that your mom's trying to jump on this gravy train and be like, wow, you're being so money-minded. You're the older sister, you need to act like it. And it's like, where's the accountability for your other daughter? Because she took $1,000 to buy some shares that she can't sell now, and now you're defending this daughter for not paying it back? Like, are you kidding me right now? So yeah, your mom and sister are being super toxic and you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep loaning a roommate money, also that he can go to funerals for his children who are passing away? Because right now he is guilt-tripping me hard, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 38-year-old physically disabled male, currently living in a group home until I can regain my mobility and independence. Over the past year or so, I've developed a friendship with another resident who isn't great at managing their money. I'm the type of guy who likes helping people and someone that people go to seeking advice or at least support. And over that time, I loaned him about $600. Now, he would make some payments, but often I would ask for that amount back within a week. But eventually, I put my foot down and I stopped loaning him money. But then one of his 3 daughters passed away, and then the second one died of an illness. So I gave him more money in loans and in gifts to help him with these extraordinary times. I probably loaned him about $150 and then gave him $100 for travel to see his family and to help with a headstone and flowers. Well, a week ago, his last remaining daughter's son passed away of COVID, and I decided to give him another $110 loan for travel and funeral expenses, but right now he still wants more. I'm on a fixed income right now, and will probably be for at least the next year and a half. I've basically written this money off in my mind, but I feel I can't just keep throwing money at him. Right now, he wants money for dress clothing, or he says he won't go to his grandson's services. It's tearing his daughter up, and it feels like the emotional blackmail he's used against me before when he keeps telling me a true friend would help out. My family say I'm in the right for cutting him off, but it honestly hurts my heart. I just need people unconnected to the situation to give me their opinion. So honestly, am I the jerk for not giving this guy any more money? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy is clearly taking advantage of you. He keeps coming back to you for hundreds of dollars at a time. And sure, I get it. His family's passing away and he has sons and daughters who are no longer alive. But seriously, you can only give so much money. Like, you've almost given him $1,000 in total. You're not some endless piggy bank that he can withdraw money from whenever he wants. So no, you're not the jerk for putting your foot down. Because in my opinion, this guy is not a good friend. Because the way he's treating you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for kicking my partner's dad and family out of my house after they refuse to take their shoes off when entering my home? Because right now, my husband thinks I'm the jerk, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, it was my daughter's first birthday. My partner is white and I am Asian. It has been the norm in our household to keep shoes off when we're at home, and we also wear indoor footwear and slippers. I've always kept spa slippers for guests in a variety of sizes, just in case some are not comfortable in going barefoot. I've always kept my house cleaned and always maintained having outdoor shoes and footwear off when inside our house. Not only does it make cleaning the floors easy, but the thought of carrying germs inside is gross and scary to me. It's also a cultural norm for us as well to keep shoes off as a sign of respect to the owners of the house. Well, at this point, my daughter's birthday has come, and the first few guests have arrived and have taken the cue that their shoes should be off. And I've offered spa slippers, and some were happy to wear them, and some just went barefoot inside. Well, this is where my partner's dad and his fiance arrive, along with their children. Well, they came in straight away with their filthy shoes still on, like really gross looking shoes. They were definitely not clean looking, and you could see the dirt sticking to my tiles. I told my partner to tell them to take off their shoes, please, because the other guests were happy to comply, and I thought that they would do the same. Well, they didn't do that, and they just kept walking around inside with the shoes on and stepping on the rugs and mats with it. I politely asked him again, but his dad grunted and said, "Our shoes are clean, we always wash them weekly." I then pointed out the dirt on the floor, and he said it's the dirt from when they walked on our front yard, so it's mainly part of the house. I explained again that kids, and most especially his grandchildren, crawls around on our floor, and since it is her birthday, they need to take their shoes off the mat where she crawls. Well, this time he seems offended and started to ask why I'm making such a big deal out of wearing shoes inside when this is a party anyways, and I'm ruining such an important day because I could not bend a little rule for one day. He then tried to tell me that it is white people's culture to not take their shoes off. Well, at that point, I lost it, and I said they can get out of my house if they can't do a simple request. Well, they eventually left, and my partner said I shouldn't have just let them go since they traveled quite far to come for our daughter's birthday, and that I'm a jerk for not being considerate for only one day. Now, it's important to know that before having our baby, when they used to visit, they know that we have a shoes off rule at our old apartment. My partner has always pointed this out to them, but I would not make a fuss about it because they only see us on occasion. We're talking maybe once or twice a year. But this time though, we moved to a bigger house, and I have a 1-year-old that crawls all around, and it's mainly because there are other babies and kids there too in the play area. I was adjusting to the thought that they can wear shoes on other areas of the house except for her play mat, which is a very large foam and soft play mat that covers most of the room. But they literally didn't want to follow on that either. Even their children didn't take off their shoes when they started to hang out with the other kids to play, and that's where the blow up completely happened. So am I the jerk for the way things were handled? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These people knew the rules of the house and they refused to follow it. And it's like, dude, if you go to somebody else's house, you have to follow their rules. And I don't think that's asking a lot. I know when people step into my house, they're absolutely taking their shoes off, and I'm going to automatically do that for their house as well. So for this guy to be like, oh, it's white people culture not to take off their shoes. Like, seriously, what are you talking about? That is not some white person culture. That's just you being super selfish and not listening to the person who owns the house. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking these people out, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My awful mother has turned my entire family against me, and at this point, on the cusp of my grandfather's funeral, I'm being told that my grandma doesn't want me there. And right now, I feel completely devastated, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my grandfather died recently. He was my entire world, and I am completely devastated. I'm a very introverted person, and I was late diagnosed as autistic a few months ago. So generally, I just keep to myself, which has caused a general distancing from my family, but there hasn't really been any drama. They just don't now regularly message me and vice versa. When my grandfather was dying, I visited my grandparents and I said a lovely goodbye. I got to see him laugh and smile one last time, which I will always treasure. And when he passed away, I called and gave condolences to all the immediate family and I sent some cards. I also arranged for a wreath saying granddad to be ordered, all with the consent from the family. Well, this is where my mother enters the story. My mother has some severe and significant mental illnesses that she has never had diagnosed or even had support for. Without describing it forever, it seems like she gets a thrill out of being perceived as a victim or suffering at the hands of others. She would always tell little white lies, saying she'd been attacked or insulted in the street by strangers or in stores. She bought and sold over 14 puppies in my childhood and told us that each one had died horrific and tragic deaths where only she was present. She would sob and throw herself across furniture and be very dramatic. Later on, when the internet became a thing, we found the adverts. We didn't say anything, and once the next pet was sold, she did the same thing again. She was faking traumatic and painful ways that these animals had passed away in her arms in ways that made her get a lot of attention and sympathy. So I think you get the idea of the kind of woman my mom is. There's something significantly not right with her mental health, and she has severely verbally, emotionally, and mentally mistreated me for my entire childhood. And she was insanely paranoid. She was jealous and had intense fits of rage. Over a year ago, I went no contact when I found out that she'd been telling very serious lies about me to my sister and my aunt, telling them that I would abandon my children with her and that no one would contact me, that she was raising my children and that I was an unfit mother and that she was suffering terribly because of me. In reality, she lived at the bottom of my street and just saw the children for a few minutes every single day. I now think she's been sowing seeds throughout my family for years, and my social anxiety and introvertedness has allowed this to happen as she knew me, and the relatives would never cross wires to speak about the things that she was telling them that I'd done. I think she was resentful of me going no contact and has doubled her efforts in the time since. Well, out of the blue, my mother called me to inform me that my grandma was very upset with me over something that I had apparently done, and that she had asked my mom to call me and let me know that I'm forbidden to attend my grandfather's funeral and that apparently I'm disowned. And right now, I'm heartbroken. I don't understand what has happened or why my family wouldn't contact me if they were upset with me, or even try to contact me to clarify with myself if they heard anything about me that upset them. I asked my mother on the phone what on earth happened, as I had not said or done anything that could cause offense, and she blamed it on my grandmother's declining mental health and suggested that it must be a misunderstanding and that she would race over to my grandma's house to sort it out. Well, hours later, she told me that she hadn't bothered to contact any of them. Now, I was hesitant to contact my grandmother and cause further upset because this reeks of my mother having caused drama with some kind of lie. However, my aunt lives with her and we were close. Any calls, text messages, Facebook messages, voicemails all just went unanswered. Then either the phone was turned off or I was blocked, as everything went right to voicemail. None of my messages have been read as far as I can tell. I think my mother has basically told my family something very offensive or hurtful, to the extent that none of them will even message me to tell me what it is that they've been told that I've done. What my mother told me on the phone did not make any sense whatsoever. She said that my grandma just got upset, and apparently it was over nothing. She would say to me, "You did nothing wrong. She just burst out crying and said that you're not coming to the funeral." My mother did mention reading out a message where I was describing having a nightmare about the funeral, where a relative got angry at me because my late son's name was mentioned at the funeral and another relative's late child was not. But here's the thing, it was just a dream. I said it had made my social anxiety so bad. But there's no way this can be the cause of all of this. My mother and I had only been speaking since my grandfather's death, and she had shared her grief and regrets and shared my social anxiety. I mean, we barely spoke at all. Obviously, she is lying and missing something out. I suspect my mother has told my grandmother that I demanded my late child's name not be mentioned, as at the beginning of the call, she said that she's upset because I said that my late child's name should not be mentioned. But when I corrected her and said that I didn't say that, she would then backpedal and say my grandma must have misheard or something like that and just got the wrong end of the stick, and that my mom was apparently on my side and would sort it out because I didn't do anything. I'm honestly just so devastated. I can't understand why she's like this or even how I should proceed. I barely survived an attempt only a few months ago. It's what led to my autism diagnosis when the doctors realized during my inpatient stay that it was apparently quite obvious. I'm sure I'm safe, but the fact that she would do this to me now and have me disowned and told me I'm forbidden to attend my granddad's funeral is honestly horrific. I don't think it would be appropriate to bother my grandmother when she's apparently distressed and grief-stricken, but I'm so hurt that my messages begging for an explanation have not been read. So is this a thing that some people do? Because right now, I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, your mom sounds awful. Seriously, she does not sound right in the head, and if I was in your shoes, I would ignore anything she tells me, because it's probably some kind of lie. When she says that she's gonna go in and like take care of everything, that honestly, in my opinion, is just BS. She's only doing this to try and like stir the pot and punish you for cutting her off. And your grandfather passing away is the perfect chance for her to try and do that. And that is so toxic. I'm so sorry she's doing that. But in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, and I can only say what I would do, because you know the situation way better than I do, I would absolutely go straight to my grandma and figure out what's going on. I would see if she actually does not want me in her life anymore, and if she really is disowning me. Because in my opinion, what your mom is saying is most likely a lie, and you do not deserve to be treated this way in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.